Hello, people of the world, and welcome back on the Marry in Motion podcast. Today, I want to do the third episode of my backpacking story that I've started already. So, that was a backpacking trip I did on my own last year. I've already done the first episode about Thailand and China. Then I spent 1 month in Indonesia, and now this will be the rest. So after Indonesia, I took a flight for Singapore, and that was such a big shock. I went from rural Indonesia, then I spent a few days in Jakarta, which was so chaotic. It was a big city that I really didn't like, and then I ended up in Singapore. I felt rested when I was there. It was so calm and clean, and everybody respected the traffic lights, and there was a metro, and I don't know, it felt like luxury. Also, I was so happy to be able to drink the tap water again. I loved it. It felt really like I said, really luxurious. Small things became extraordinary. Singapore is really clean, easy, navigable, and I spent more than one night, so I think I spent 3 or 4 nights in Singapore, and I was in the same hostel, which had hot showers, and I didn't realize it, but staying 4 nights in the same place is such a rest, because I was spending 1 or 2 nights maximum in the same places when I was in Indonesia. So I was always running. I always had my backpack on me, and there I could put all my stuff. I could carry only what I needed for the day. It was so amazing, and I could really enjoy the city and properly rest. The first day, I directly met some people and we visited a bit together, but I really enjoyed going around alone. It felt very safe, and just walking, I could see nice places, the harbor, the parks. The parks are really cool, and the food courts, because everyone told me that Singapore would be expensive, which I don't really agree. Because if you stay in a hostel and you eat at the food courts, not the fancy ones, no, the normal ones, then you can really have good food for maybe less than €5, which is very good. Many people see Singapore as very expensive and luxurious, which I thought it was because there was drinkable tap water, but you could get a meal for less than €5. So I really liked it, even though it's just a city. So after 2 or 3 days, I had seen everything already, but I could spend some time. It was nice. I met some people, so we went together to the beach, which I don't know what to think about that, because it was completely fake. You could see it. It was made, all the rocks, I don't know if it was real rocks, but there was the beach, and then there was an island in front, quite close. You could go with a small bridge, and I think everything was man-made, so it was lacking some depth, and the rocks felt like plastic, and I don't know. I didn't really like this place, but then I joined the people I've met to a beach club, which was the first time I went to that kind of place ever. And it was funny to experience that, but I was afraid that I would have to pay. They told me, we are going to the beach. I said, okay, well, I can meet you there. Then they sent me their location, and they're in this club in some kind of terrace with a private pool, and I don't know, they were getting drinks and food, and I arrived there, and I drank one glass of something and I didn't dare to eat or to enjoy the pool because I was afraid that they would want me to pay for all of this. And in my head, it would be very expensive, which I'm sure it was, but I didn't pay anything. Thank God. There were also some girls that I met that were there. So I was counting on the ego of those men so they would be wanting to pay. I spent the afternoon there. It was rainy season, so at regular intervals it would just pour, and it was a bit funny. And then I wanted to leave, but I didn't want to be the first to leave, but I didn't also want to be the last one. Yeah, for the whole budget thing. So I said I wanted to leave, and some girls also, and they were, I don't know if they were locals. One of them was Thai, but I don't know if she was living there. But then they showed me a place where we could eat, so I left with them, and we left them and sort the money out, which I'm grateful. So we went to eat in some, I don't know, it was a small restaurant in a mall, and they were serving a soup with pig bones inside. I don't know what's the name, but it was super nice and very cheap and apparently very famous because maybe like a few minutes after we arrived, there was a big queue there. And yeah, it was very good. And I met those girls completely randomly. So that was really nice. But then my time was up in Singapore and I took a flight to Taiwan. I think Taiwan was one of my favorite countries I've ever been to. Well, I will tell you all about it. First of all, I knew that my math teacher from middle school was now an expat in Taiwan. So I thought about contacting her, and I did a few weeks before. And she was super happy that I had contacted her, and she invited me on a hike with her family and her friends. But that was the day I arrived. So I landed, I think, around 7 a.m. and she explained everything to how to get out of the airport, which bus to take, and then I arrived at her place. I had a shower, a little snack, and bam, we were back to go hiking. I met her two daughters that I remember my teacher was pregnant with her oldest one when I was her student, and now her daughter is 8 or 9 and she has a second one. It was crazy to think about that. So we went hiking. So every weekend she was doing, with her daughters and colleagues, they were doing a hike that's called, oh no, I forgot. Okay, it's just called Taipei Grand Hike, and it's all around Taipei. I think there are 9 sections, and so we did the one in the south of Taipei, I think. Well, it doesn't matter. We did a big hike, and I met some of her colleagues. So this math teacher, she's teaching now at the French high school in Taipei, which is, France has some high schools abroad that are supposed to be exactly the same as the one in France. So people that graduate from there have the French equivalent, and they are learning French and their local language as well. And so this has good renown and is quite prestigious, and they have French teachers. So yeah, I met a lot of her colleagues. It's a lot of French people. Also, they are well more paid than regular teachers. So it really felt like another world when I was talking to them, because for them it's so normal to change countries very often, because they would work in one French high school in, for example, Taiwan, and then 2 years later they go to the one in Washington, and then the one in Singapore, and they really move around like this so easily, and they have this whole network. It was crazy to talk to them about all of this, really. Yeah, it felt so normal, and they had always anecdotes. It was amazing because it's a bit what I would like to do, moving around and having a job they like. So I think it's very nice to teach in those high schools, because the students are usually very, very nice and interested, and the level is very high. So the daughters of my teacher, when they arrived there, they thought so they will learn Chinese, and so she was worried about their Chinese level because they didn't know anything. But actually the problem was their French level, because all of those Taiwanese people spoke better French than her daughters, and especially written French than her daughters. So she really had to teach them better French than what would be expected in a French institution. That's really impressive, I think. I think they are very lucky to be able to go to that institution. Also because it's free for the children of the teachers. Because I think it's very expensive. I don't really know. So I met these people, we hiked the whole day. I didn't sleep the night before because I was in the plane and my plane was late. So it was a bit exhausting, but we were hiking with children, so we were not going too fast. So it was fine. And the landscapes were amazing. I didn't really know what I was expecting of Taiwan. And I think I was imagining big cities. Actually, I don't know. I don't remember. But this felt quite different from what Taiwan would be. And this was my first impression. The nature. We walked in the mountains. It was going up and down and up and down. And a lot of stairs, a lot of viewpoints, and also quite some people on the hike. I remember in one place we had to wait and we had to queue because it was a difficult passage, and so people were quite slow and we had to wait because it was just a random Saturday and everyone was out there hiking. But yeah, I really liked it. And I got closer with this teacher because I didn't see her since she was my teacher. And when she was my teacher, I was maybe 12 years old. It was 10 years later. And we really got along very well. And she proposed that I sleep at their place whenever I want. But I already had booked a hotel because I didn't want to intrude. So I went to my hotel the night after. And I was quite happy because my hostel was really, really in the center of a nice neighborhood with a lot of shops, a lot of things happening, while my teacher was living a bit more in a residential area, a bit more on the side. It was a very good start. Afterwards, I visited the city. I really, really liked it because you can hike pretty much everywhere. You just take the metro and you go to one side of the city and you can go hiking from there. Also, there are a lot of stairs, but nice viewpoints on the city and a lot of nature, a lot of parks. I really liked that the people were outside in the parks, exercising. Especially, I was going up very early, and in the morning there were a lot of old people stretching and exercising in the park. I really liked this. And I was walking among them, going hiking. It really felt good. I also really liked the shopping streets. Everything felt cheap and pretty, and I loved the bubble tea. I could drink at least 2 a day. I was really obsessed. I tried every taste, and I even bought a little bag so you could carry your bubble tea hand-free. It was amazing. I really, really liked it. But then I needed to see something else than Taipei. I went along the east coast. I took a train, I think, to the Taroko National Park, which is known for, again, hiking, and there are some gorges. And so I was planning to go there. I booked a random hostel there, next to the train station. And when I arrived, it was empty. I was the only one getting out at that stop. And then I was walking to get to the hostel. It was just a small street with a lot of trees around. No car, no one. I was alone in this forest walking to my hostel. I thought maybe I would end up in a weird place. I was starting to be a bit scared. And then I arrived in the hostel. It was next to the ocean. So between the forest and the ocean, this little hostel in the middle of nowhere, literally. And it was so cute. Very rural. There was only one other guest, Susie, an American girl. Very funny. And you could see like the mismatched bed sheets that maybe belonged to their children before, I think. It was very colorful. Yeah, mismatched, I would say, was the word for this place. They didn't speak a word of English, but yeah, they were so nice. I really liked this hostel. And the location, literally, I could walk 5 minutes to the beach. I think it's one of my favorite places where I've been. This beach was black sand with big waves. And it was cold and windy. And the first time I was there, it was for sunset, but it was cloudy. So the light was just dim. And I don't know how to explain. I was alone there and I felt free and cold and I loved it. Literally, it was amazing. Then I became really good friends with Susie. We chatted a lot and she was a bit scared of doing stuff, but she was still traveling on her own. But we both felt better that we both wanted to see the national park the next day so we could go together. That's what we did. So we went to the train station again the day after and we took the bus. However, we discovered that there was another village a bit farther that was way more known to stay before going to the national park. So the bus was already almost full when we entered because everyone came from the other city. But anyway, we got there and so it's a whole valley following a river and you can get out of the bus anytime and there are hikes a bit everywhere and you can do several in one day. So we decided to get out of the bus at the lowest point, hike, and then go up the road again, then stop, hike, and start over. However, we didn't realize that there were not that many buses, so we decided to hitchhike, and that was very funny because the people didn't really know what we were doing. And they were like, wow, do you need help? Like, why do you walk that road with your hand up? Like, what do you want? And so we would try to explain and they would always take us where we wanted to go. So it was really fun and I think better than taking the bus. So we hiked. It was so pretty. There were some temples and rivers, mountains, cliffs. I think we did 3 or 4 little hikes. And all of them were really different. Some were more wild. We were really in the forest. Some there were concrete on the ground and just to see a waterfall with a lot of tourists. Yeah, it was really, really cool. We spent the whole day there. It was really worth it. And then to go back to our village, again, we waited for the bus. Very, very long. We were a lot of people waiting. And when it finally arrived, it was already full. So we decided to ask people again to take us in their car. Yeah, that was really cool. And I think if I would have been alone, I would not have dared to do that. And maybe Susie either, but together we could do that. After we had seen this national park, Susie and I decided to go back to Taipei, but slowly making our way up along the coast. So I think we spent a few days. We took the slow train. The view was always so pretty. We could see the sea and small villages. Yeah, we stopped in a town where there was a bike circuit. Susie didn't know how to ride a bicycle. I think the last time she had done it was when she was a little girl, and she hadn't done it since. But I forced her to do it anyway because it seemed very pretty on the pictures, and I was going to do it anyway. But in the end, I think she really liked it. We rented bikes. At the beginning, she was not riding very straight, but in the end, it was really fun. We were along the coast, in villages. We spent the whole day, I think, riding everywhere. We had lunch on a cliff overlooking the sea with some fishermen fishing around. It was really cool. Then we stopped in a village that is said to have inspired Spirited Away from Miyazaki. And it was very touristy though, but in the night it's so pretty. There were so many lanterns everywhere, and the village was on a hill, so it was always going up and down, and these very narrow stairs with all those lanterns. Wow, it was really pretty. But I would not recommend it because it felt more expensive, a bit fake. There were so many shops and so many people, but most of them didn't stay the night. So after the last bus left, it was empty, all the shops closed, and it was like a ghost town. So I don't think I would recommend that. And then we went back to Taipei. Susie went her own way. I think she stayed a bit more in Taipei, and I wanted to visit other national parks around. So I went to the Wulai National Park, which is at just I think 1 or 2 hours south of Taipei. And again, I went hiking and I took pictures of the village. I went to the museum to learn about the community that used to live there. Yeah, it was really nice. And being alone also helps to stop anytime I wanted to take pictures, and I could walk quickly on the path or stop. I don't know. Sometimes it's also very nice to be alone, and after several days being with someone, I was happy to be alone. And then I went back to Taipei and I stayed at my teacher's place, which was also nice to see their daily life as people living in Taipei. For example, they never cook for themselves. They always go to some kind of... It's not really a restaurant. It's like a cafeteria. The people from there, they cook every day, and then you can just take some dishes and you pay per kilo, I think. And yeah, that was interesting to see. I really, really like that country. I don't really know how to explain, but the cities felt dynamic without being overwhelming. The nature was accessible and so pretty. And the people, I think I found there what I liked in China. So the culture shock, everything was so different. But still, compared to China, in Taiwan, it's more accessible. You don't need a VPN to access anything. Things are sometimes written in English. It's more open to the world, so the people speak more English. They are more easy to talk to. And yeah, I would really like to go back because I spent only 1.5 weeks. And I really think it's worth spending a lot of time. And I would like to go to the south, to the west coast. Really, I would love to go back. And I really felt at peace there. Everything felt easy and nice. I don't know if it's me that changed and got used to travel, that got at ease with what I was doing, or if it was the country that was really different. But I think I didn't notice it, but I was really getting more comfortable, and yeah, I was more confident. I didn't realize it, but I was such a different traveler than the one that had landed in China 2 months earlier. So this is the end of this backpacking trip. I spent 3 months and I visited 6 different countries. I arrived a bit scared. It was not really my plan to do any of that. I feel like it happened to me rather than I made it happen. I arrived, I was lost, I was scared of being rude, I was scared of getting anything wrong, I was a bit scared of everything. And sometimes I was overwhelmed, sometimes I think I was a bit too stressed to really enjoy what was happening. Sometimes I think I could have had more opportunities to go see some things with people, but I didn't. But also other times I did crazy things and I met super nice people, and yeah, I think it was very enlightening for me, and I gained a lot of confidence because I realized I could travel on my own. I was capable, and yeah, I could enjoy it. Now looking back, I think I was lacking a lot of local interactions. Now I think if I would go, I would try to speak more with the people, which I didn't feel really comfortable in doing at that time. We all learned it was my first time outside of Europe and I was on my own, so it's fine. I went to Asia scared and I left not fearless, but free at last. That's all for today. I hope you are excited for the next episode, and bye bye!